All right, to start this video, I'm going to go through the solution for page 14. So hopefully you had a chance to work through this and now you're just checking your solution. So you have this toy rocket that was launched vertically, initial velocity 128 feet per second, the height after t seconds. So again, we have the same thing that we've been dealing with. You have x and y, and you have height and time. Oh, that's wrong. So let me delete that. You have x and y. X is time, y is height. Okay, so I plugged this in the calculator, this function here, using x instead of t. So you have that plugged in, and if you take the advice that I gave you, if you do the opposite of b divided by 2 times a, you're going to get a positive 4, and that's where you're going to want to center your table. That's going to give you your vertex. So you can see here, if I go to the table, I have 4. So on your calculator, it'll go from 2 to 6, and you'll see the 192s that match, the 240s that match, and then the 256 you'll have in the middle. So that's where that vertex or that turning point is coming from that you see on the graph here. You'll notice the highest height is 256. The time goes from 0 to 8 before it hits the ground again. So that helped me set up my axes. I decided to go by, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 25s on the x-axis. I didn't put every single one. 25, 50, 75, 100, 125, 150, 175, 200, and so on and so forth. Time in seconds, I went by ones. What was the highest point that the rocket reached? So keep in mind the vertex was 4, 256. X is the time, y is the height. So the highest point was the 256 feet. How long did it take to reach its maximum height? It took 4 seconds. That's what it's asking in part B. I know that's a little bit cut off. Scroll down in a minute, but it took 4 seconds to reach this max height of 256 feet. All right, let me scroll down. How long does it take the rocket to hit the ground? Right? That's this 8 seconds, which can be seen here. That's where 0 is. You're going to have to scroll down on your calculator till you get to a 0. But it was after 8 seconds the rocket hits the ground. That's just your x-intercept, 8, 0. And remember, this is time, this is height. So after 8 seconds, the rocket reaches the ground. Describe the meaning of the y-intercept in the context of the problem. So there is no value here without a letter t attached to it. So that means the y-intercept is 0. So the y-intercept is 0, 0. Just putting that into context. So the y-intercept is 0, 0. This is the time. This is the height. So at 0 seconds, the toy rocket is 0 feet above the ground. You'll see something at 0 seconds. The rocket is 0 feet above the ground. So that's what's going on there. Okay? All right, let's go back to page 15. All right, so these aren't going to involve graphing. What they're going to involve is profit and describing what the vertex means algebraically. So you're really going to have to utilize the advice that I gave you. So I'm going to work through question 3 with you and then give you an opportunity to do question 4 on your own. All right, so what's happening in question 3 here? This guy owns a hot dog stand. He finds out that his profit is represented by this equation. It's x squared. A couple things. It's concave down because of the negative. The y-intercept is 67. P is the profit. X is the number of hot dogs. So in terms of x and y, this is the number of hot dogs, and this is the profit. Find the vertex algebraically. All right, well, we're not going to do that algebraically. That's a typo. It should be find the vertex graphically, and then describe its meaning in terms of the context of the problem. So remember, you're going to do the opposite of b divided by 2 times a. That's going to tell you where to center your table. So b is this positive 54. The opposite is negative 54 divided by 2 times a. A is negative 1. So this is going to end up being positive 27. So when we plug this into the calculator, I'm going to need to get 27 in the center of my table. So I'm going to plug this in. So we have negative x squared plus 54x, and I think it was plus 67. Yeah, plus 67. Go to the table, and you're going to have to scroll quite a ways down till you get to 27 right in the middle. And you should start to see some repeats. Okay, so your calculator is going to probably show from 25 to 29. So you'll see the 792 repeating, the 795 repeating, and the 796 right in the middle. So this right here, 27 and 796, that's going to be our vertex. 27, 796. So our vertex is 27, 796. So we're just determining what that means in the context of this question. Let me see if I can type it. So X is the number of hot dogs when John sells 27 hot dogs. He earns a max profit of $796. So that's the vertex, which we found graphically. And then the meaning is when he sells 27 hot dogs, because we know that X is the number of hot dogs. So that's what this refers to. Y is the profit. So that's what this refers to. So when John sells 27 hot dogs, he earns a max profit of $796. All right, so what I'd like you to do now is go ahead and do question 4 on your own. Pause the video, come back, and check out how you did. All right, so now I'm going to be talking about question number 4. Very similar to the last question, where we need to figure out the vertex, not algebraically, but graphically, and then explain it in the context of the question. So we have a couple different variables. S is the dollar value in thousands, and N is the number of weeks. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the vertex. We're going to do that whole opposite of B divided by 2 times A to help us figure out where to center our table. For some reason, I'm struggling to do this math in my head right now, so let me take the calculator and do it. So we got negative 169 divided by 2 times negative 13, 6.5. All right. So that's going to be an issue. All right. So let's do this. We're going to have to change this. Okay. So here's what we're going to change this to. S equals negative 13 n squared. Okay, 26. Let me do a quick calculation here. 26 times 7, 182. All right, let's change it to 182. Otherwise, we're going to have a problem. All right, so we're going to make this plus 182n. So, all right, now what we're going to be able to do is figure this out. And we're going to do the same thing we just did here, except with the 182. Plug that in, you get 7. So that's where you're going to want to center your table. So I'm going to go here, clear this out. You have negative 13 x squared plus 182 x. Go to our table. And now we want to be centered at 7. Oops, I lost my table. Okay, so there's 7 on your calculator. It's going to go from 5 to 9. The 585s match, the 624s match, and then you have the 7 and 637. 7 and 637. So our vertex is going to be 7, 637. So this is the week. This is the sales in thousands. So putting this into context is going to look like this. In week 7, or a better way to say this, 7 weeks after the intro of the game, the max amount sold was 637,000. Oops, $637,000. Okay, so this is the number of weeks since the game was introduced, number of weeks since the introduction of the game. So 7 weeks after the game was introduced. This is the sales, the dollar value in thousands. So they sold $637,000 worth of the game. All right. I hope that all made sense, and you should be able to start your Delta Math. On the Delta Math, only do the questions that deal with profit. Skip everything else, please. And hopefully you saw on the agenda, the next couple of classes, we will be testing on Module 4, Booklet 1 and 2.